Could a big move be coming soon for the Philadelphia Eagles? That's what we're talking about on today's Philadelphia Eagles. Now, my name is Chase Sr., and the reason that we're discussing this is because the NFL owners' meetings are happening this week in Palm Beach, Florida, and Eagles general manager Howie Roseman hinted that the Eagles could still make a major move. We're going to take a look at what he said, but also he said something very similar a couple of off seasons ago, and then what happened a few weeks later. The Eagles made a blockbuster trade. Before we dive in, be sure to hit that subscribe button. It is officially the month of April, which means at the end of the month, it'll be the 2025 NFL Draft. For weeks since the Eagles dump trucked the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, we've been doing a lot of draft coverage. It's going to continue, and we'll be live every single day, every single round, every single selection for the 2025 NFL Draft. All Eagles all the time here on this show. For our draft coverage, picks will come in faster. We'll do deeper analysis of every pick as compared to any network out there. No commercials here on the show. And join the movement. Already more than 117,000 people are subscribed to this channel. Let's get to 118K. And by the draft, let's shoot for 120,000 subscribers. Here's what Howie Roseman said yesterday at the NFL owners meetings. We're incomplete right now as a football team. There's no doubt about it. Talent acquisition season has just started, and it goes for a long time. And we continue to try to find any possible ways to upgrade the depth and talent level on our team. Again, it just looks different than maybe it looked last year when a big focus on that was probably in the free agent market. But being able to re-sign your own players, those are part of what we're trying to do to get out in front of things. Obviously, when you lose good players, you want to replace them, and we'll continue to look at ways. What could Howie Roseman be thinking about? What could he have up his sleeve? Let's focus on a couple of big takeaways from what he said. We're incomplete right now. There's no doubt about it. He admitted there are still holes on this Eagles roster. He also said talent acquisition just started. Still some solid players out there in free agency, but there could be trades, which could serve as a possibility for Philadelphia as well. And he also gave us a glimpse and a look into what the Eagles' strategy has been, right? Being able to re-sign their own players. It's part of what the Eagles do and how they operate as an organization. They like to get out in front of these contracts, usually a year early, so that they can sign those players on about 60 to 70% of what their market value actually is. And Howie also added, we'll continue to look at ways to improve. So while I still think that this Eagles roster is one of the most talented teams in the National Football League, Howie Roseman admitted, we're not complete right now. We still have some things that we want to accomplish. There are pieces that we can add. There are holes that we can fill. And a lot of what he said there sounds a lot like the 2022 season. After 2021, if you don't remember, that was the first year under head coach Nick Sirianni. The Eagles made it to the playoffs with 9 wins. Then they got dominated by Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A lot of people were worried about the lack of weapons on offense. And the Eagles had said, we just need to prioritize targeting Devontae Smith a little bit more as he goes into year 2, and Dallas Goedert, one of the top tight ends in football. People also thought that the Eagles' defense needed some big improvements. They had shown some strides under Jonathan Gannon, but not nearly good enough to compete in the NFC. What happened? Howie got to doing Howie Roseman things. He's always very aggressive in his team-building strategy. To improve the defense, the Eagles went out in free agency. They signed James Bradberry after he was let go by the New York Giants. The Eagles have had a lot of luck recently with picking up former Giants players and having them play very well in the midnight green right down I-95. James Bradberry, that 2022 season, was an all-pro player. And then at the end of April, in the NFL Draft, Night one, Howie Roseman made a splash. He fleeced the Tennessee Titans. Philadelphia acquired wide receiver A.J. Brown. He has gone on to have more than 1,000 receiving yards in every single season that he's been with the Eagles. He's consistently been a top 3 to 5 wide receiver ever since his debut season with the Eagles in 2022, and he could go down as the best, most decorated, most accomplished Eagles wide receiver in the history of this organization. And this organization has had a lot of really talented wideouts. And then, right before the season, Eagles had a hole at that safety spot. So Howie Roseman pantsed another organization. And he made a great move in trading for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who that year tied with Justin Simmons for the NFL league lead in interceptions. He ended up being one of the heart and souls of that Eagles defense and was a great player that year. So you bring it to modern day. Howie Roseman again admitted that they're incomplete. They're still going to look for ways to get better. He didn't mention the NFL draft there. So what could Howie Roseman be cooking up? Remember this conversation here over the next few weeks, especially going into the NFL draft. The biggest remaining needs as of right now on this Eagles team, safety spot after the C.J. Gardner-Johnson trade. I know they really like Sidney Brown at the very least. They could use some depth pieces there. Could the Eagles add a player like Justin Simmons? Julian Blackmon, we'll certainly see. At defensive tackle, I think the Eagles might target that position early in the draft because they lost Milton Williams. At linebacker, they let Oren Burks go. Do they think that Nakobe Dean can be back a little bit earlier? They also really like Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Of note, Nick Sirianni said today that Ben Van Sumeren, in coming back, is going to be a part of the running backs room because he's going to be listed as a fullback while still occasionally getting snaps as an off-ball linebacker and still being a full-time special teams player. But linebacker, there's a lack of depth there, and then offensive line depth as always. So it's Howie's season here. If you could make a realistic trade for one player, who would it be? Could it be a huge move for an edge rusher like Trey Hendrickson, who after Jamar Chase got paid and T. Higgins got paid by the Cincinnati Bengals, Cincinnati could look to get rid of him going into the final year of his contract. No more guaranteed money left. 17.5 sacks each of the last 2 years. And the Eagles still have a need at that edge rusher spot. Get your Eagles draft hats today, by the way, at chatsports.com/Eagles draft hats. And then speaking of the draft coming up later this month, these will be the hats that the Eagles draftees wear. And we've always seen these draft hats when players get up on the stage after their name is announced as going to their respective team. And I don't always love the draft hats. This year, though, I think they are awesome. The color scheme, the logo, the print, Eagles, Philadelphia, Liberty Bell on that. There's this version. There's also a snapback version. You can get the dad hat style, which is a little bit closer to your head and not as boxy, all thanks to our friends at Fanatics. Chatsports.com/Eagles draft hats. All right, to the back half of the show. Is Eagles tight end Dallas Goedert on the move? Is he going to get dealt? Could he get released? Could he come back to this team in 2025? I'm reading the tea leaves here, but given what Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman said, they didn't say for sure that Goedert was going to be on this team this upcoming season. We've been talking a lot about Goedert since the Eagles Super Bowl 59 victory, going into the final year of his deal. No more guaranteed money left. He wants a new contract, I would imagine. His cap number is pretty steep this season, especially with the Eagles cutting some costs. And the Eagles might want him back, but they might want him back at a significantly low number. He's still one of the top tight ends in the NFL, but the amount of games that he's missed throughout his career, and especially over the last couple of years as he's 30 years old, it's a problem. Here's what Nick Sirianni said about Goedert. Right now, he's on our football team. And obviously, Dallas Goedert has meant a lot to us. We'll see how that plays out. He's a heck of a football player, heck of a leader. Want to be able to have back as many guys as you possibly can, but that's not the reality of the NFL. What did Nick Sirianni say there right off the jump that stood out to everybody? Right now, he's on our football team. Doesn't mean in the future he's going to be on this football team. He also said, we'll see. It's not the reality of the NFL to be able to bring all of these players back. When I heard Nick Sirianni say that, when I went back and read it, there's a good chance that Goddard is not on this team. If they really wanted him on the squad, especially at this number, they would say, Dallas Goedert is going to be on the Eagles in 2025. He's a huge part of what we do. He's coming off a great playoff run. He helped us win the Super Bowl. He's been one of the top tight ends in the NFL over the last several years. Nick Sirianni didn't say that. Howie Roseman didn't either, and he's the one making the decisions. Obviously, Dallas Goedert has been a tremendous player in person for us. We have tremendous respect for him. And in both those regards, as a player and as a person, the opportunities that we had in free agency with Harrison Bryant, Kylan Granson, were just opportunities we felt were good for our football team. And I know certainly Dallas is a unique player, so really that's kind of where we stand. So where did Howie Roseman say that we need Goddard back and on this team next year? He didn't. So that opens up the door for Goddard to be moved, whether it be via a trade, whether he get released. Again, if he comes back to the Eagles this upcoming season, because they know what his value is as a playmaker, picking up yak, catching the football, red zone target, very physical when he runs, his value as a blocker, it has to be at a cheaper cost. He's a top 5 highest paid tight end in the NFL right now, but when you're missing all that time, it's hard to justify paying a player that much money. And you know what that reminded me of was last offseason, around this time. I was right in front of Howie Roseman at the NFL Combine, and we asked him about Hassan Reddick, and he said, great story, Camden guy, went to Temple. Obviously, he's had a lot of success with our organization, really talented pass rusher, but he never said we need him back for, at that point, what was the 2024 season. What ended up happening? The Eagles traded him away to the New York Jets. Something to monitor here. And words speak volumes. So do the Eagles' actions, right? They've signed 2 tight ends in free agency, Harrison Bryant, Kylan Granson. They met formally with tight ends at the NFL Combine. More from Nick Sirianni from the NFL owners' meetings today. He was asked about his contract. He's going into the final year of it. He said, it's not something I want to discuss publicly. Things will work itself out. Jeffrey Lurie, Eagles owner, just spoke and said, Nick Sirianni is going to get a contract extension. He's been one of the lowest paid coaches in the NFL. Very curious to see how much of a raise he gets after winning the Super Bowl and making it to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. Jeffrey Lurie also saying, ever since that parade, we've been focused fully as an organization on how to win ring number 3. Love that mentality. The championship was great. We're already looking ahead to 2025. Sirianni also very excited about Avery Williams, an under-the-radar free agency pickup. Started his career, actually, as a defensive player for Atlanta after being a 5th-round pick. Then he made the switch to offense, where he lined up everywhere. He's been a good kick and punt returner. With the NFL making changes to the kickoff rule, they anticipate having more kick returns. That is going to be Williams' role, but Nick Sirianni was talking about him as an overall offensive weapon. The Eagles will also have mandatory minicamp once again, all players expected to be there, and more OTAs. This is the approach they had last year, coming off the 2023 collapse, and obviously Eagles had the most successful season in franchise history. Sirianni asked about visiting the White House. He said, I'm really excited to go. Teams have been doing this for a really long time. It's an awesome opportunity. Nick, that's the right answer. Regardless of your politics, you have a chance to celebrate a championship in professional sports and go to the White House to experience history. Those walls have been walked by some of the most legendary people in American and world history. Yeah, I'd want to go as well. Brandon Graham retiring. Who's going to fill that leadership gap? Nick Sirianni said, I am so high on Nolan Smith. He's somebody who can do that. He also mentioned Cooper DeJean and others. Tyler Steen at guard. What does he need to do to improve? Nick Sirianni said for anybody who is in a position battle, you need to be more consistent. That's what Tyler Steen needs to do. Jason Kelce said that on the radio last week. We talked about it here on the program, right? That Tyler Steen will have good reps. He'll have bad reps. It's all about being more consistent, and hopefully Jeff Statland can help him out with that. Be sure to hit that subscribe button here on the show. This is Philadelphia Eagles Now. I believe that we always give you something unique, special, and awesome here on YouTube. If you're with me, I appreciate you.